Hi everyone, happy December. I'm Sharon Colvin. I'm the Youth Services Consultant for the Vermont Department of Libraries. I have an enormous stack of books for you this month. I have a whole bunch of picture books and a ton of novels and a couple of interesting nonfiction as well as a couple of graphic novels that I think you'll find interesting. So, without further ado, let's get started. So the first one is a Daniel Pinkwater book. Now, if you know Daniel Pinkwater at all, you know he's a little strange, and this book is a little strange, but it's cute. It's about a friendship between a bear and a bunny. So, of course, you know, they live in different places, but they're friends. And it's kind of just, you know, it's a tale of their friendship. And the thing that's hilarious about this is they decide to get a pet. And one day they look for a pet. And they have this whole discussion about what is a pet. And they talk about, you know, is a caterpillar a pet? Is a rock a pet? Is a pine cone a pet? And they decide no. And so they're looking around the whole forest trying to figure out what a good pet would be, until one day they find, while they're napping, of course, because things happen while they nap, they see up in the tree a frog. And then for whatever reason, in Pinkwater's mind, they call the frog a kitty. I don't know why, but they call the frog kitty, which I think the little kids are going to find hilarious. And of course, it croaks, but it's called kitty. And anyway, they take him in and they decide to keep him as a pet. What do they feed kitties? Strawberries, naturally. And so they become a family with their little frog. So, goofy kind of story, but I think, you know, if you have story time kids who really like these kind of off-kilter, funny little stories, you might find a home for this one. Not totally necessary in life, but could be a cute addition if you have those kinds of kids. All right, this book, you know, this book is not my favorite book ever. It's called A Story I'll Tell, but it might fill a hole in your collection. This book is about adoption, and if you need books about adoption, this could be the one to fill that hole. And sometimes it's too bad that we have to buy books that aren't, you know, stellar because we have to fill holes in our collection, but that's the way it goes. So this is basically a story, and, you know, part of what doesn't appeal to me is the artwork. I just don't find it very appealing. Also, the family is completely white, which I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, it's basically a story of a mom and adopted mom and a little boy. It's a little boy. And she says, someday when you ask where you came from, I'll tell you a story. And then she makes up all of these crazy stories about where she came from. She came from a hot air balloon. Someone brought you in on a stallion. An angel brought you. A lark announced your arrival. I found you in the Cabbage Patch. And, you know, all these kinds of awesome stories. And some of them are pretty outlandish. Woo! I found you riding on a dragon. You know, perhaps you floated in on a wave from the ocean. Maybe I rescued you from sea. And you'll say, not true, when I tell you those tales. And I'll smile because it will be hard for me to fool the brightest child in the world. And so there are times when I think I will tell you the truth, for the truth is a beautiful story too. And so when you ask where you came from, I will tell you how we gathered you in a silk blanket and flew on the wings through the sky. Your eyes sparkled like the ocean below, and your hands fluttered as the clouds passed by. So that's kind of a magical way to describe what actually happened. You know, it's not a truly interesting story, but, you know, it's kind of cute, and then they brought him home. So if you have need for an adoption type storybook in your collection, this one is one to take a look at. If not, then this is a totally skippable story. Like I said, it's not my favorite, but if you have kids who are adopted who are looking for these types of stories, then there you go. Okay, this book, I don't even know who published this one. This is an unusual publisher, I have to say. Okay, it came from Canada, and I don't recognize the publisher, but I'm glad they sent it. It's called Lola and I, and I have to say, I really adore this book, and I'm going to spoil the ending for you, so if you don't like spoilers, plug your ears. The girl is blind, and in the beginning of the story, you don't know who Lola is and who I is. You don't know who's telling the story, which I kind of love. And of course, I started this story, I had no idea what it was about. And it starts off and it's just, Lola is my best friend. And you come to find out that Lola is the human, and the person telling the story is the dog. And so the dog is telling the story about her human, and how Lola used to be scared all the time and used to be lonely, but she took care of her and helped her become strong again and helped her go outside. So, there are times where you're thinking, is it the dog? Is it the person? Not sure. But in the end, you'll find out it's actually the person. And then they talk about how they don't always get along and they don't always like to eat the same things. And sometimes they have accidents. And sometimes they make messes. And they have, adventures together, and they go to the seaside, and somebody paints their picture, and they have these wonderful adventures. And this is kind of where the story pauses. And then if it was a novel, this is where it would say part 2. And on part 2, it says, 5 years ago, my Lola, my human, was in an accident, and it took her sight away, and I'm her seeing eye dog, and it was love at first sight. So I kind of love this story because you don't know that Lola is blind through the story, which I love those kinds of stories. I think those are really good for kids because she's a normal girl. She does everything that kids do. And I like the mix of perspectives where you're not sure who's taking care of whom here, because usually it's the human taking care of the animal. But in this story, it's very much the animal taking care of the human. And I love that it's written from the dog's perspective. This is a really good addition, especially if you have need for more books about disability in your collection. But also, I just think this would make a wonderful storytime book. Highly, highly recommend it. This is a good one. All right. Sillier things. Ooh, it got blurry. Here we go. There you go. Where's Walrus and Penguin? Okay, this book is wordless, but it's hilarious. And it's basically the story of these two troublemakers who go through the town having adventures. And so the reader's job is to find them. And so you can probably find them there. So first they go to the zoo, and then they go in the subway. This is hilarious. Do you see them? Oh, man. And then they sell papers. Then they go to the park. Then they go rowing on the river. Then they go for a taxi ride. Then they go and see a show. Well, not see so much as sing in and conduct. Do you see, Penguin? And then they go play baseball, and there are no words here, mind you. It's all just goofiness. So there you go, baseball, and he gets hit on the head. Silly thing. And then he has to go to the hospital. And in the hospital, now this is where the gender thing, it bugs me just a little bit, the whole nurse with the little white cap. And clearly there's a feminine, masculine thing going on, which I take issue with, but I'll overlook it because the rest of it's cute. Anyway, so they fall in love, and in the end, there's a wedding, and the penguin. I guess you could say you don't really know who the girl is and who the boy is, or if one's a girl and one's a boy, who knows. But anyway, it's a cute story. Wordless stories definitely have their place if you have children who like wordless stories, or if you have young story time with kids that you really like to talk through stories with. This could be a really good one. The art is just adorable. All right, this is probably going to look pretty familiar. I don't know why it's so blurry. There you go. This is called, there you go, Zen Socks. And you probably recognize it. This is the same author that gave us Zen Shorts. And so this is part of that series, and it's quite adorable. It's the same character who comes back. There you go. And the kids see him, and he's got their cat with him. And he says the cat asked for a ride, so I took the cat for a ride. His name is Stillwater. And so they dance together. And the big message in this book is about patience. So, the little girl wants to be a ballerina, but she wants to be a ballerina tomorrow. And he says, let me tell you a story. And he tells him a story about a young swordsmith who's learning how to be excellent and has to be patient in order to be really good. And she's like, I know, I need to be more patient. It's pretty sweet. And then they play giant robots. And then Stillwater has to learn a lesson because he wants to keep all of the perfect cookies for himself. And the little boy says, that's not nice. You have to give your guest, let your guest have one of the cookies too. And he's like, but I want you to have ones with the crumbles and that are all broken. And he's like, that's not nice. And it's pretty cute. And so they end up playing together and end up having this very sweet robot story. They were going to play bad guys and good guys, but they ended up playing just good guys. Because they learned something from the cookie incident. So at the end, they go to the starfish. And this part is really a little strange, but, we'll take it. So they go to the beach and they see all these starfish and they worry about the starfish being outside the water. And so they pluck all the starfish off the beach and they throw them back into the ocean. Now, I don't know much about starfish, but I wonder if maybe they wanted to be up on the beach. I'm not sure. So anyway, they pick up all the starfish and they save the starfish, and they feel all happy. The stories are a little disjointed, I have to say, but they're still pretty sweet. And if the kids like the other book, they'll like this one. And then, of course, in the very end, they look up and they see the stars. So if you have fans of the original one, this could be a good purchase for you. Like I said, it's not the most coherent story ever, but it is sweet and, it could have an audience for you in your story time groups. All right. This one here is small and adorable and blurry, apparently. What's going on? Oh, there you go. Hello. This is a good gift book. If you're still shopping for the holidays, this could be a good one. It's called Thank You and Goodnight. And it's by Patrick McDonnell, who you may know. And it's basically about a little girl who is playing with her animals. And, they all come over for a sleepover. And the art is adorable. And so her three animals come over, and they, there's not a lot happens. It's basically a pajama party. And they keep asking, is it time to go to bed yet? And so they put on their pajamas and they say, is it time for bed? No, it's time to jump on the bed. Is it time for bed yet? No, it's time to do the chicken dance. And then now it's time to do the funny face contest. And, they don't want to go to bed. And the little girl is like, is it time to go to bed yet? And then they play hide and seek. And they practice yoga. And then they have snacks. And then they make a wish. And then they hear a bird sing a lullaby. And then they start to get sleepy. And the little girl's like, are you sleepy yet? There are actually a couple of books like this in my pile today. So they get ready for bed, and they go down the hall, and then they climb into bed together, which is really cute. And then she reads them a bedtime story. And the story is basically about the three animals, a majestic elephant, a brave bear, and a quiet bunny, and stories that bring sweet dreams. And it says, now before we go to sleep, let's all say what we were thankful for this day. And so then their big list is all the things that they talked about, during the story. The sun, the moon, a red balloon, hiding, seeing, fun with friends, a shooting star wish that never ends, cozy pajamas, a happy surprise, night birds singing, sweet lullabies, bedtime stories old and new, read with love by me to you. And then they end with a good night kiss, and they say thank you and good night. And then she falls asleep with her animals. So it's it's a bedtime story, definitely. And because it's small, it might not be great for big storytime groups, but it could be good for small storytime groups or pajama storytimes. But I think it could be even better for one-on-one sharing or for gifts like grandparents. If you're looking for gifts for people like that, this one could be good because it's just so cute, and the art just has that timeless quality about it. You just can't resist it. They always come out with these books this time of year. It's like they're trying to get our money or something. Okay, this is another cute one. Very quiet. It's called Goodnight, Good Dog. And this is about another one who doesn't want to go to sleep. And so it's about a dog who, lives in a house, right? And she's hearing all the good night sounds. And the lights are going off. And there's shadows in the rooms, and the moon's out, but the dog is not sleepy. He remembers all of the happy things that he did that day. Not sleepy. And so he remembers all of the tricks he did, but he doesn't want to go to bed. And so he goes around the house, and he sees that his children are asleep. The art is really precious and simple in this book. The night is still, and he's still not sleepy, but maybe he's a little bit sleepy. But then he thinks, can I dream back the sun? So another bedtime story, very cute, very quiet. He doesn't want to go to sleep. And the dog makes himself snug, and he says to himself, good night, dog. Then he closes his eyes, and he dreams of grass and balls and the sun. And then he dreams that he'll see his human in the morning. So again, not a lot happens in this book either, but it could be a really good bedtime story for those kids who don't want to go to bed. And I'll have one more after this too. So lots of good night stories. Very sweet. Not a lot happens. Might not be the best storytime book just because not a lot happens. Unless you have a really quiet book, or if it's a pajama story time, this might be a good last book to do, maybe, to kind of calm them down. Could be. Alright, this book is hilarious, and the title reminds me of that song that I won't subject you to, but the whole, 5 green and speckled frogs. I love that song. I'm not recording that for you all, because I don't sing. Okay, so this is a rhyming book, and it's hilarious. So there's a cat, and he says, hey, frog, sit on a log. And the frog says, I don't want to sit on a log. Logs are all hard and uncomfortable, and they give you splinters. I don't care, said the cat. You're a frog. You must sit on a log. And therein starts the rhyming. And it says, can I sit on a mat? Only cats sit on mats, said the cat. What about a chair, said the frog. I wouldn't mind sitting on a chair. Hares sit on chairs, said the cat. So this cat's a pain in the butt. But he goes on and on and on. Mules sit on stools, and gophers sit on sofas, which maybe with a Rhode Island accent that works. Let's see. So she's got this whole, rhyming world. Lions sit on irons. Again, rhyming mystery, but ow. Parrots sit on carrots, which I think is hilarious. And it sounds all very uncomfortable. Foxes sit on boxes. And the cat is just so droll. I think it's hilarious. And then goats sit on coats. Cows sit on plows. Storks sit on forks. So it keeps going. And there are big long lists of rhymes that I think the kids will just find hysterical. And in the end, the funniest part is when they get to the end, and he says, well, I never knew that, said the frog. Well, you know now. What do dogs sit on, asked the frog. I was hoping you weren't going to ask that, said the cat. All right, just think about that for a second. What do dogs sit on? Are you ready? Oh my god. It might just be my twisted sense of humor, but I think that's hilarious. I think the kids are going to find this completely hysterical, and I think you might need it. It's simple, and the rhyming thing, as we know, is really good pre-literacy skill. So it might be on my recommended list. All right, now this one is very different, and I have to say, as a public librarian, I was not a fan of lift the flat books or pop-up books or anything like that because they get destroyed when you circulate them. However, this book is gorgeous. So you take it with a grain of salt. You know how much you want to invest in books that will fall apart. It's completely up to you. But if you look at this book, it's gorgeous. Look at that. Hey, Seymour. And the photography is just amazing. It's, for some reason, I don't think it's a photograph, or maybe it's just not as good a quality, but the inside photographs are beautiful. Look at this. It looks real, doesn't it? That's crazy. And so it's basically the story of Seymour and Buttons, the dog. Okay, let me see if I can do this for you. So let me see. Seymour is kind of he's in the middle. He's the robot. And then Seymour Buttons is the dog. And they basically tear apart the playroom and play with everything. And so on each page, there's a little poem about their adventures. Now, one thing you got to watch out for is this book, not every flap opens the same way, which is great for kids trying to problem solve. Not so great for trying to keep books not getting torn. So it's completely up to you how you want to do this. However, I think this book is worth looking at. It's pretty cute. They play with the entire, playroom. They have adventures and tree houses and spacecraft, and in all kinds of, they meet all kinds of crazy characters. And there's a poem on each page. And then in the end, they clean up. You can see. So it ends up being like a 2.5-page, 3-page spread. And there's a little poem on each one, which is just adorable. And then, in the end, each spread has details about how the page was created, how the image was created, and there's a bonus puzzle for each one. So this might be a better gift book than anything else. It's up to you. But I do think it's worth thinking about. If you have kids who are nice to your books, maybe this is something you just keep in the library. But I think kids who like puzzles will really like this one. And it's different from the regular Where's Waldo kind of stuff. All right, so a little bit more serious. This is one today. This was the inaugural poem for Barack Obama's second term. It was written by poet laureate Richard Blanco. And this is Dave Pilkey, which you know Dave Pilkey. He illustrated this and basically created a picture book out of this poem. And you know what's interesting is I don't even remember this poem, but it's beautiful. And I guess Obama commissioned him, commissioned him to write this poem. And it's basically about the United States and all its diversity, and it's about hope, which is wonderful. And there's a lot of really great art. I didn't know Dave Pilkey could draw like this. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble keeping it level. There you go. I don't mean to make you dizzy, I don't. But sometimes I just can't help it. So the art is absolutely stunning, and it's about, the United States and hope. And in the end, it is a poem that was part of the inaugural ceremony. So something that teachers might be interested in. It could be a good addition to your poetry section. It could be a good read aloud too, for maybe an older group. So definitely something to consider, and not something that was on my radar. All right, something else with a little message. This is a very simple book. Todd Parr is known for them. This is called the Goodbye book. This is definitely a book that you would put in maybe a special interest section. You would give to kids who are struggling, maybe with a death or a loss of some type, or a moving. And it's basically about how much it sucks to say goodbye. And it's a fish. And the pictures are really simple. The sentences are really simple. And it basically says you might not know what to feel. You might be sad. You might be mad. You might not feel like talking to anyone. You might feel like hiding. Things might not seem fun anymore. And I like that it gives the kids permission to feel however they feel. You might not feel like eating. You might not feel like sleeping. You might pretend it didn't happen. You might be confused. And then eventually you'll start to feel better, and you'll remember. and you'll remember all the fun you had, and you'll have days when you're up and days when you're down, and you'll remember the special times. You might feel like talking, you might feel like drawing a picture, you might wonder what they're doing. I love this picture. You might wonder what they're doing right now. And you'll remember how much you love them and miss them. And you'll go up and try to be very brave. And in the end, there's just a nice little note from the author. We all get sad when we have to say goodbye to someone we love. So I think this was really sweet. Probably not the best read-aloud book, but definitely a good book to have on hand for young kids who have to say goodbye to somebody, because that is a very, very tough time in life. So definitely worth looking into. All right, this book is adorable. It's called Finding Monkey Moon. The art is absolutely phenomenal. It's just gorgeous. And Monkey Moon is this little girl's stuffed monkey, and she loses him, which is just terrible. And then her dad tries to help her find Monkey Moon. And she looks under the couch. She looks outside. They walk down the street. It's kind of like Knuffle Bunny, only much more somber, much more serious. They go out into the forest. They have a flashlight, and they go past an owl, past a close-up popcorn truck, and then she starts going into the forest and picking up leaves and looking for Monkey Moon. They look in a doghouse. Just the art is gorgeous. Look at the light. So they look in the doghouse, they look in the sandbox, and she's crying the whole time, Monkey Moon, where are you? And then there's silence in return. And she's like, what happened to Monkey Moon? And then, actually, no, the main character's a boy. Excuse me, wipe that. It's Michael. And Michael kicked at a nearby bush, making the branches shimmer and shift for a few seconds. But wait! What was that? It looked like a shiny eye winking at him. Could it be Monkey Moon? And the art is just, the words are just poetic. It's gorgeous. Oh, Monkey Moon, there you are. Michael picked up Monkey Moon and hugged him close. Now you don't have to be frightened anymore. How sweet is that? This would be a great read aloud. Every kid understands. And then, they go back home with the dad, and all is well in the world. And you see the monkey on Michael's back. So this is a great story. Every child can relate to this, losing a favorite stuffed animal or pet, and then finding them. So this is really, really, it's a gorgeous book. It would be a great read aloud. Like I said, it's very poetic, and the art is gorgeous. Highly recommend it. All right, on a completely different note, I love this book. It's called Sing and Dance in Your Polka Dot Pants. And it's written by the author, Pete the Cat, who's amazing. And apparently, you can go online and download the song and the disco dance, which I'm totally doing. Yeah, this is such a book I would have read in story time, and my coworkers would have been embarrassed. So embarrassed. But I love it. So Hazel, who I think is a hazelnut, I'm not really sure. Let's just say hazelnuts. Hazel loved to sing and dance. Hazel loved her polka dot pants. One rainy day, she wrote a song. Come on, everybody, let's sing along. And see, there are all these little nuts. I love that they're nuts. It's just hilarious. Okay, are you ready? This is how the song goes. I told you I didn't sing. I lied. Polka dot pants, sing and dance in your polka dot pants. Papa's nose was stuck in a book. He didn't see Hazel. He didn't even look. Oh, no. And then if you look really carefully, he's reading A Midsummer Night's Dream. Oh, my gosh. So each two-page spread has a little bit of more of the song. Would Papa dance? Not a chance, but Hazel kept rocking in her polka dot pants. And so the whole thing, she goes and she harasses her mom, and she harasses her little brother. Her little brother, Wally Nut, was being a pain, and you know what? Would Wally play? Not a chance. Would Mama sing? Not a chance. Would Papa dance? Not a chance. But Hazel kept rocking in her polka dot pants. Oh my gosh, it's just hilarious. And so you can sing the whole thing if you want to. This is what I would do. And there's Grandma. She says she wants to rock with you. I have no idea what the tune is because I haven't downloaded the song yet, but I will. Don't you worry. And so basically she and Grandma start dancing and everyone hears. And so the whole thing turns into a disco. Okay. So not literary or educational at all, except for maybe the rhyming, but I think it's adorable, and it would be really fun for story time, and there's the words, and she's a nut. So, did I sell you on it? I think you need this book. You might need this book. I think you might. I have like the up and downs going on today. I swear I didn't do it on purpose. Okay, this book. This is a story I did not know. And if you know me, you know I love Winnie the Pooh. And this is the true story of Winnie the Pooh. And I had no idea that Winnie was based on a real bear. I had no idea. And I think the kids are really going to love finding out. So Winnie was a real bear named Winnipeg. And apparently, Winnie was, in 1914, a veterinarian took him to World War I. And the bear was kind of a mascot overseas. And let me just show you this crazy picture. So that they take the bear on a train. And they go overseas with this bear. And there, look at this. There's the bear. And the bear becomes part of the unit. And so, you know, there's the bear on a train. And of course, Winnie's a baby in the beginning, but grows up pretty quickly. But then Harry, the person who adopted Winnie, realizes that, you know, they're going to go off to France, and I think they're in England, and they can't take this huge bear. And so it gets really sad. They take a picture all together. And then he takes Winnie to the London Zoo, and it's very, very sad to say goodbye. But, and this is the part the kids are going to be tickled by, so he goes to the Winnipeg Zoo, and then it changes a little bit, and it says, once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had a bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He'd tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. One day the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear, a real bear, on the terraces. Right away the boy thought, there is something special about that bear. Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come right inside her enclosure to play. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew just what to name his stuffed bear. He named it Winnie the Pooh, and the boy was called... You know what the boy was called? Christopher Robin. So, yeah, true story, amazing, adorable. This would be a really, really good read aloud for your older storytime kids. I think they would find this really, really sweet. Yet again, I go from somber to crazy. I don't know what to tell you. Dinosaurs, what the dinosaurs did last night. Okay, so this was based on, I think it was YouTube or Instagram or something. It was definitely on social media last year. And these parents, every night the dinosaurs would get into mischief and the kids would wake up and the dinosaurs would have made a mess and would be posed all over the house doing random things. And they made a book out of it. And it's hysterical. And the kids will love it. So it begins with, to whom it may concern, that means you. You've probably heard stories about toys coming to life when no one's watching. Maybe you don't believe in that stuff, but if you're reading this, it means weird things might have already started happening in your house. So, these dinosaurs do all sorts of crazy things. They're in the fridge. And there's a whole thing. You know, dinosaurs are always hungry. That means the kitchen is the first place they go. Then they go to the toy bin. And the whole thing is photographs with pictures of toys and stuff. And then they get into trouble. And of course they make a huge mess because they're dinosaurs. And then they go take baths in the washing machine. Why wouldn't you, right? Dinosaurs are dry clean only. That's a problem. And then they do some artwork. So the whole thing is just about them getting into mischief. It's pretty crazy. But sometimes they go a little too far. Yeah, I think that's permanent. And pretty soon you're going to try to stop them. And so look, let me see if I can get this for you. So there's a hot dog in the middle of the room. And they're rat traps trying to trap the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are too smart for that. They can get out of anything. And look at this mess. The kids are going to find this hysterical. Or actually, it could be a really fun library program if you wanted to have dinosaurs doing things like this in the library. And so, you know, this little warning message is, you know, dinosaurs look all tame and cute, but really they're mischievous little devils, and they are getting into trouble all the time. So I definitely think this could be fodder for program ideas. I think your kids are going to find this hysterical, and you need it. I think it's pretty darn cute. It could be a good gift book too. But I love now that social media is the breeding ground for picture books. I think that's cute. Oh, here we go. Here's my other go to bed story. This is probably the best one out of my bunch. But it's about a child who's putting his robots to bed. And the robots are annoying, much like children. So he puts the robots to bed. Says, time to go to bed. Gotta brush your teeth and clean yourselves and power down and whatever. And the thing is, every time he starts to go to sleep, he starts to hear beep, beep. And that means one of them has a problem. Is something wrong? I need my coil. My sensor aches. I want more oil. And then he tries to soothe them. It's this little mommy and daddy routine. And then he goes back to sleep. And then there's another beep, beep. And the little boy's like, what now? I need a light. My fan's broken. So, you know, it goes through several of these iterations of them needing different things. And then he finally says, robots, you still awake? Engines off, for goodness sakes. No more beeping, no more talking, no more squeaking, no more squawking, no more blipping, blinking, bloinking, winking, whirring, squeaking, winking. Go to sleep. And then they're quiet. But then they need a bedtime story. So he tells them a bedtime story and they finally go to sleep. So definitely a good night story, good for pajama story time. It could be good for regular story time too. It's just funny about, you know, it'll appeal to kids who don't like to go to sleep, which there are a lot of them out there. So very, very cute. And I love the robots are hysterical. Okay, this book, I don't know what to tell you about this book. It's hilarious. It got rave reviews. I'm not sure you need it for your library. Let me tell you about it and then we can see. It's definitely a good gift book. I'm not really sure it's for children. That's my only hesitation. It might actually be for adults. So it's basically about a bunch of parents who, you know, accidentally swear when they're doing things. But the author has replaced the swear words with the names of Swedish furniture, like IKEA furniture. So, for example, you know, Dad is hammering something, and he accidentally thwacks his thumb, and he says, "Stop!" instead of swearing. Yeah. And then later on, someone falls, and he says, "For Hanj!" And I'm not saying these words because I don't speak Swedish, but yeah. So there's all these situations, and they keep shouting these Swedish words. Now, I'm not sure that's going to appeal to children, but it appeals to adults. It's funny as heck. So basically, there's this little kid who's like, why are my parents shouting all these Swedish words? I don't understand any of them. And then, you know, and they keep doing things that make them swear. And then the teacher calls, and she's been, of course, repeating the words at home. So, yeah. The best part of this book, though, I have to say, is the glossary. I don't think you can see it. There you go. The glossary of these Swedish words. They're things like cutting board and pillow and refrigerator. So, the more I talk about it, the more I'm convinced you probably don't need this for your library. It could be good if you have adults in your library who like funny books, or it could be a good gift book. Probably the children. I'm not convinced the children are going to really like this one. So there you go. Done with picture books. Finally, I've been talking for 40 minutes about picture books. All right, picture books are done. So let's talk nonfiction really quickly. I've got 3 nonfiction stories. 2 are okay, one's fabulous. Let's start with okay. This is Inside Biosphere 2. It got rave reviews. Now, I'm not saying it's not a great book. It is. It's fantastic. It's less about the failure of the Biosphere Project and more about what it's being used for now, which is excellent. There's really great pictures. There's facts. There are some flashback information. Sorry, I can't hold things straight. About what happened in the original project when there were people living there. There are no people living there now. And we talk about the research that's being done and the students who do projects there and learn, and it is really interesting. My hesitation about this book is who is going to want to read this. I mean, if you have kids in your school or your library who are into this kind of thing, then maybe, but I don't know, this kind of book just doesn't have a lot of shelf appeal, I guess. I wonder who's going to pick it up. So while it's a beautiful book, and I think if a kid picked it up, they'd probably really enjoy it, I'm not sure anyone's gonna. So take that as you like. It got really good reviews, like I said, so I have no doubt that it's a fantastic book. But are kids gonna read it? It's the endless question. This one is the exact same thing. This is called Breakthrough, and this is about the epidemic of blue babies, which I didn't know anything about. It takes place in 1944. And it's basically about these researchers and this lab assistant who solve the puzzle of the blue babies and save a bunch of lives. Now, the interesting thing about this story is that the lab assistant is African American, and no one would listen to him. He's actually the one that came up with the diagnosis and helped save the babies, which is interesting. However, this book is a lot of text. There's some pictures in it, but it's definitely written for a high-level reading. You know, it doesn't have anything flashy in there, so you really have to be interested in the topic. And I'm not sure who I would give it to, quite honestly. I mean, if you have kids in your community who are really interested in medical mysteries or medicine, maybe, or if kids have to do reports on this kind of thing. But other than that, again, not a lot of shelf appeal. I'm sorry to say. All right, my last one, though, is fabulous. Now, did you watch Sesame Street when you were growing up? I sure did. I was a kid in the 70s, and I knew Maria very, very well. This is her memoir, which I think is fascinating. So it's her story of how she became Maria. Her name is Sonia, and she grew up in the South Bronx, which was not a happy place to grow up, especially when she was growing up. And so it's the story of how she dreamed of being in television and how that was her escape, but how her real world was not that great. And so it's all about, what made her before she became Maria. So it got fantastic reviews, and it looks wonderful, and I think the topic could be interesting. It might be more interesting to adults who are of, my generation, your generation, than to kids. But either way, I think it's worth noting because it could be pretty good. It is written at, I think, a middle school level, but as we've discovered with young adult literature, it doesn't really matter. People will read everything. So something to look for. All right, now I've got a bunch of middle grade novels for you and some graphic novels, and hopefully we'll finish before I lose my voice. All right, next, Maloney's Magical Weatherbox. This book looks fascinating. It's kind of a spin on the Greek gods. It's basically about these kids whose father is he's called one of the most important people in the world, and he's in charge of making sure that the seasons switch from one to another. And there are people in the world who are in charge of this, and so they have a bed and breakfast, but there's a phone booth outside their bed and breakfast. And what happens is when it's time for the seasons to change, the phone rings, and their father's job is to go out and answer the phone and make sure that the seasons change appropriately. And then one season, the phone doesn't ring, and then their father disappears. And so they have to go have an adventure, of course, to figure out what happened. And of course, the danger is that the whole weather system could break down and everyone could break loose, which is terrible. So I like this concept. I think it's interesting. It got really good reviews. I think it's kind of like 3rd to 5th grade-ish kind of level. Or looking into. This series has a look and feel and is being compared to Erin Hunter. Now, Erin Hunter drives me crazy because she just keeps publishing books and there's just no room on the shelves. But if you have kids who are obsessed with it, they might need something else. This is a story about a fox family, and it's about this particular fox. I can't remember what her name is. Isla and her brother. And they live outside the lands of the furless, the humans. And they live in a den, and they work to survive. And then one day their den burns down, and they have to go on an adventure and try to find somewhere else to live. And there are lots of perils in their way, including the furless people. So it's about the fox kind of interactions. So it got decent reviews, not stellar, but decent. But if you have kids who are obsessed with Erin Hunter books, this might be a good one to pick up to get them started. It's going to be a new series, of course. So it might be worth getting them into. This book looks interesting. It's called Friends for Life. This is a book about misfits. It's a little younger than your normal kind of suicide-y book. It's probably like 5th grade-ish. And it's about these two kids who are outcasts. And I can't remember if it's a boy or the girl. It's a boy, Francis, who doesn't have a lot of friends, and Jessica, who doesn't have any friends because she's a ghost. And she happens to sit down next to him on a bench one day, and they become friends. And they start to bond over the fact that they've struggled with depression and not fitting in and have had thoughts of suicide. And they befriend other misfits, and they kind of form a group, and they start talking about things like depression. So it's been recommended for a younger audience, so I'm guessing there's not a lot of heavy stuff in it. However, the topic seems pretty heavy. So it could be, if you have a call for this kind of book, this could be good for kids who want to read the high-level topics but aren't quite ready for them. This could be one of those nice tween books. I think it looks interesting. All right, this one, the Wrinkled Crown. This one has been compared to a lot of the kind of magical fairy tale stories that have been going on. And takes place in the magical Wrinkled Hills in a village called Lorca. And so you have a 12-year-old she's almost 12, named Winnie. Apparently there's a big ceremony when you turn 12, and you're able to touch this magical instrument. But before that, you're not able to. But she's already broken the rules because she's built her own magical instrument, and she hasn't told anybody. But unfortunately, when she's cursed for getting in trouble, it accidentally strikes her best friend, not her. And so then she has to go on this grand quest to save her best friend through the Wrinkled Hills. So this one looks like a grand adventure. It looks pretty good. It got some decent reviews. If you have lovers of fantasy adventure type stories, this could be good. Could be a good addition to your collection. All right, now this book got rave reviews. It is a graphic novel, and it has that superhero vibe about it. It's heavy. It's probably expensive. Well, it's about $15. Yeah, a little pricey. It came out from Scholastic, and like I said, starred reviews left and right. So this is a story about a girl named Violet, and her dad collects whale droppings as fuel. That's what is fueling the galaxy. And there's a big, they compare it to an oil spill, but it's a big diarrhea explosion, a whale diarrhea explosion. And he's sent out, and he's never heard from again. And Violet gets very upset, and so she tries to go find him and goes on this grand quest. A lot of quests. So, but graphic novel, you can see the colors are extremely vibrant, not a lot of words, but kids are going to love this. So I highly, highly recommend it for your children's collections. I think that the kids are going to adore it. Go ahead and get that one. All right, another graphic novel that's very, very different, The Anchor's Shadow. This one's gotten a lot of press lately. I'm not sure how much child appeal it has. It might have more YA appeal, but it's definitely written at a lower level. It's based on a true story, I think, and it's about a boy who grows up in Japan, and I don't remember what year it is, but he's sent to a military academy in Southern California where he faces extreme racism and, is basically not treated well at all, and he doesn't fit in, and he doesn't know what he's doing there. So he saves up his money to buy a car to leave and go find his freedom, and his freedom is in art. And so he goes to art school and gets his own place, and he starts to express himself through art. But you can see, it's not quite graphic novel, it's not quite novel, it's short, it's in a picture book layout, but you look at all those images. Like I said, it might have more appeal to your YA audience. However, it doesn't look like a YA book because it looks like a picture book. So you might have some trouble selling the kids on that one. So I worry about that a little bit because, teens don't like to pick up books that look like picture books. But I'm not sure that this one has appeal to the younger kids. So, I'm not sure what to say, but it looks beautiful. Oh, so much to read. All right, Sarah Beth Durst, we love her. She's written a lot of good stuff. And this book is called The Girl Who Could Not Dream. And this book is about a girl who lives with her parents, and her parents run a bookstore where they buy and sell dreams, which is kind of fascinating. And she witnesses all of that, and she likes to hear the stories. But one day, all the dreams are stolen, and her parents go missing. And so she has to solve this mystery. Now, Sarah Beth Durst is known for these kind of fantastical adventures, and I think if it's anything like her previous books, it's going to be wonderful. And look at those crazy characters. I think this is going to be a good one. I'm going fast because I'm starting to lose my voice. All right, this is another Katrina book. As you know, this is the 10-year anniversary of Katrina, or we're wrapping up the 10-year anniversary. And this is another book. It got good reviews. I'm not sure how it compares to other good Katrina books out there, but if you need another one, this could be a good one. This is about a girl who turns 13 on the day that Katrina hits, and her family has stayed in New Orleans because her father's a police officer and doesn't feel like he can leave. And so they stay, and of course the storm is much stronger than they anticipated, and her mom is very angry for him putting his job before his family, and, of course she has to break out of her house and is rescued, and all sorts of crazy stuff happens. It's definitely a lower level-ish book, quick read. It's slim. I think it's only 200 pages. It got starred reviews, though, so it could be good. But like I said, I'm not sure how it compares to the rest of the really wonderful Katrina books that are out there. However, she's 13, which is a little older than some of the protagonists we've seen, and I don't know. It could be a good addition to your collection if you need it. If you don't need it, I completely understand. It's all about picking and choosing in the library world. All right, School for Sidekicks. This one looks silly and wonderful, and look how shiny the cover is. All right, so this is about a kid. His name is Evan Quick, and he calls himself a superhero geek. And basically, he lives in this world of masks and hoods. Masks are superheroes, and hoods are villains. And he wants to be a superhero, but he has no powers. He has no super strengths, and he is not a hero. But then supervillains attack his school during a field trip, and he goes to the Academy for Metahuman Operatives, by the way. And then he finds out that there's like kind of an underground secrets in his school about the hoods and the masks. And actually, he calls his school a school for sidekicks. And he learns all these dangerous secrets, and it looks like a fantastic mystery story about a kid who doesn't fit in and who doesn't have any superpowers, which, you know, that's most of us, right? I think it could be a good one. All right, next, Lightning Queen by Laura Rousseau. I love her. She wrote, I can never remember, the Ruby Notebook, the Indigo Notebook, and the Jade Notebook, which I loved. She writes really wonderful stories, and I've heard wonderful things about this. This is actually on my pile to read books for the Canfield Fisher Award Committee. So this takes place on a place called the Hill of Dust in the remote mountains of Mexico. Now, her books always take place in Mexico, which I think is hard for kids in this part of the world to relate to. However, it's very rural, which is something I think the Vermont kids could relate to. So keep that in mind before you say no. So there's no electricity, no plumbing, no cars, and just goats, pastures of goats. And this is about a girl named Teo, who's 11, and it's a very boring town. But then one day, this mysterious Esma rolls into town, and she calls herself the Gypsy Queen of Lightning. And she has a caravan, and they become friends, and there's magic, and there's danger, and there's all sorts of crazy, sidekick kind of adventure followers. So I think the kids in Vermont could really like this story, because basically it's a story of a very boring, nothing ever happens to your town, and someone comes and shakes things up, and all of a sudden there's magic and adventure. So I'll definitely let you know how that one pans out after I read it. But it could be something interesting if you have kids who like that kind of thing. All right, this is another graphic novel. If you know Walter D. Myers, he passed away a couple of years ago, sadly. He wrote Monster, which was the very first Prince Award winner. It's a fantastic book, and it's basically about a boy who's in the wrong place at the wrong time and is swept up by the police. They think he's part of a robbery, but he wasn't, and he's put on trial. And the whole thing is told in like as a script, and part journal and part images, and it's kind of like a notebook. But it's basically about like, how is this my life? This is ridiculous. I didn't do anything, and yet the district attorney is trying to portray me as a monster. So somebody took it upon themselves to make it into a real graphic novel. Not real, but an actual graphic novel with these paintings like this. I've heard mixed reviews. However, I think part of the problem is that people are comparing it to the original, which is stellar. Kids today might not know the original, and if you have a big graphic novel crowd, this could be a good way to introduce them to Walter D. Myers, who writes phenomenal books. You might not need it, though. You might just need a copy of the original book. I think it has some staying power, but this is definitely an updated version. It's shiny, and it's a graphic novel. The original is a quick read, and so is this. And the artistry is pretty amazing. So it's up to you as to whether or not you need this, but Monster is a fantastic, everlasting story, and you definitely need it. What form you take it in, up to you. Okay, now we're moving into some more YA. I only have a couple more, I promise. All right, this one, I'm sorry, I keep leaning down. Here, let me pull these back up. I know, some of you guys complain that I move around too much, but that is just the way I am. And you should see my desk. It's covered in piles. This book looks creepy. It's called Icebreaker, and it's a new trilogy that has just come out. And it takes place on a boat named the Oyster. And it's a ship that's been sailing a frozen ocean for 300 years. And it's been sailing so long that the people on the boat don't even remember what their mission was. And it's about this 12-year-old Petrel, or Petrel, who's an outcast. And he's an outcast because his parents were thrown overboard for doing something horrendous, although who knows what they did. And so Petrel is an outcast on the ship, big ship. And then they go to an iceberg, and there's a boy who's stranded, and Petrel befriends them and takes him on board and tries to hide him. So they become outcasts together. So this looks like the beginning of an interesting series. It definitely sounds like an unusual premise, which I'm always looking for. And if you have kids who like this kind of, crazy, adventure-y kind of stuff, looks good. I don't think it has any magic in it. I don't think so. No, wait. 2 talking rats might have magic in it. Not sure. But the reviews say this will bait readers with its intriguing premise, hook them with its starkly beautiful setting, and reel them in with its fascinating characters. I think it looks interesting. Okay, next. Bright Lights, Dark Nights. This is about an interracial couple. It's definitely a more middle school, high school book. And it's about a boy named Walter, and he falls in love. I think he's white, and he falls in love with a black girl. And, but at the same time, his father is a police officer and has been accused of racial profiling. And now, their relationship is in the news because, it's hit the media. And so now they're looking at him and saying, oh, he has a son who's dating a black girl. So now this whole thing kind of falls apart. It's told in 2 different perspectives, and there are pictures. So it's not actually as long as it looks. There are pictures throughout. So this could be an interesting book if you have middle school, high school kids who are into that kind of thing. I think it looks like an interesting premise, and it got really, really good reviews. My pile's getting tall. All right, next, A Little in Love. This book is based on Les Mis, and I have to admit I've never read Les Mis, and I saw it once a long time ago, so I don't really know the story, but the reviews are saying that it's really true to the story and a really wonderful adaptation, and it's definitely kind of a 8th grade and up kind of book, and so it's about this girl whose name I'm not going to be able to pronounce. I don't know. Anyway, she lies alone in the darkness, clutching a letter to her heart. And she knows her mother has taught her to hate this girl, Cassette. And now she's 16 and she meets Cassette. And she has to figure out how to deal with her. And, of course, there's a boy involved. So it looks like a very kind of flowery love story. A lot of tragedy. But if you have kids who like Les Mis, this could be a really good book to hand to them. It's not quite as large as the regular book, but a little spin on it, a little contemporary take on it. All right, my last book, a little bit of teen romance. This book looks like good sugary teen romance. It got really good reviews, and it's basically about these 2 teenagers who fall in love at first sight, but they know they're not going to last forever. And it's, it's very realistic from everything I've read. And they're told in alternating voices, and it's basically the story of them falling in love and trying to deal with the fact that it's fleeting. So sugary romance. I know sometimes it's hard to find really good romance, but this one looks promising. Plus, I like the cover. It looks good. All right, is that enough for you? Oh my gosh, I talked for more than an hour. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so that's all I have for you right now. I'm sure I will get more. Here's my contact information. Please let me know if there's anything I should read, anything that you have suggestions, things I can do to help you. I will make sure that all of these titles are put in the description of the YouTube video for you, and please check out my previous one. I've now officially been doing this for a year, so please check out our YouTube channel and see all of the backlog of videos. You can also go to our website, which is libraries.vermont.gov. And if you go to that website and you click on Services for Libraries and then Children and Teen, that's my page. If you go to the Youth Services Toolkit, you'll get everything you need. But under Reader's Advisory, if you click on that, you will get to all of the videos that I do. I do another series as well called What is Sharon Reading? I recommend that you check that one out as well. I do read for all of the book award committees, so I'm constantly reading good stuff, and I love to tell you about what's worth reading and buying and what's not. So take care of yourselves. Happy holidays, everyone. Stay warm.